So, good evening. I must say that when I set foot in London this afternoon, I realized I'd never thought of that. I knew, of course, that I'd come many times to this country, but I realized that adding up through the years, 3 days one time, 4 days another time, I must have lived on about at least 1 year in this. So it's like a second or third home for me, and I'm glad I came. And in fact, I will start by telling you something that happened just here in London a few years ago, that in order to understand more this subject of kindness, that I will tell you a few things tonight. Where does kindness come from? Are we naturally kind? Are we born kind? Does that make any sense? Well, a few years ago in this country, in this town, a chimpanzee escaped from the zoo, and they couldn't find it. They looked all over the place, and it was only after a few days that they found him. And you know where he was? He was in a library. And in fact, he had 2 books in his hands. One book was the Bible, and the other one was Darwin's Origins of the Species. And he looked very confused. He was going from one to the other, and the keepers of the zoo asked him, "What's the matter with you? What did you do? Why are you here?" And he said, "Well, I'm very confused because I don't understand if I am my brother's keeper or my keeper's brother." You see? And that's the whole dilemma, if you think about it. Not just about the chimpanzee, but about us. Are we our brother's keeper? What's our essence? Is our essence care and love and gentleness and kindness? Or, on the contrary, are we just our keeper's brother? No, our keeper's brother. Are we just like the chimpanzee? Are we just part of the animal world? Are we wild at heart? And all the kindness that we see is just a thin veneer of civilization, and beneath that, we are just competitive and selfish and ready to just take advantage of the situation and forget about being kind to others. Well, that dilemma may not be such a dilemma after all, because we are finding more and more that chimps are actually kind themselves too. And there are many examples, even though ethologists are quite upset about this subject. They are not sure about it. They want to be very strict and scientific, but there are many, many examples of animals that save people's lives and even sacrifice themselves. Dogs, cats, dolphins, pigs, that actually make altruistic acts. So why do I mention this? I mention this because the idea of evolution, of survival of the fittest, which is undoubtedly valid in my opinion, but it's not so wild and it's not so ferocious as we may think. It's not only that nature is so wild and cruel and only the one that is strongest will succeed and survive. Remember the movie Odyssey 2001, in which you see these humanoids, these apes that are almost human, that hit each other on the head and do all kinds of terrible things to each other. Well, that is probably not so. We have evolved not only because we have been fit and strong, but because we have been kind. And I want to deepen a little bit this subject to make it clear what I mean. Because one of the reasons why we have been able to survive on this planet as a species is because we were able to cooperate and to be with each other and to coexist with each other, and we were able to empathize and read other people's feelings. Nobody was able to exist and survive in isolation. In Germany, actually in English, the title should have been, of my book should have been Survival of the Kindest. In Germany, they published it with the title Only the Kindest, Only the Kind Will Survive, which is a little bit imposing, but it was very successful. It was very successful in there, see, and it is true. It is true because only the people who are able to cooperate, to be with other people, to collaborate, to be friendly, and to live in a community and to support each other, that was the secret weapon, so to speak, that helped us survive as a species. In fact, we may have in mind, you probably have seen it in films too, those little sperm cells that all move towards the ovum, and it looks like a very fierce competition. They're all there, and it's 900 million of them, and they're all pushing, and the one who makes it is us, which is something very important to remember, especially when we are depressed, that we're the one who made it out of 900 million. Of course, we're also the ovum that was just sitting there and waiting calmly for the winner to come through. But it's not competition only. It's very evidently they're pushing very hard. So it's like the first statement of our existence is this striving to get there. But it has been discovered that the sperm cells are actually also helping each other. They're not just pushing each other apart. They don't have elbows anyway. But they're also collaborating, and one alone wouldn't be able to make it. Okay, it's this enormous trip, like for us going to the moon. So to come back to us as human beings, the first reason, I think, for which we can say that kindness is part of our evolutionary history, is that without cooperation, without empathy, we would have been extinct. And the other reason, there are probably many other reasons, the other very evident reason is that babies, newborns, children need to be taken care of. They need care, they need warmth, they need love. Without that, nobody is able to make it. There are some very sad pieces of research that have found that out, that babies left to themselves die very quickly. So that being taken care of is part of our makeup. We have already learned that. Maybe we were not completely enthusiastic about our parents, but certainly somebody took care of us, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And the point that differentiates us from the rest of the animals is that for us childhood, for us human beings, childhood lasts much longer, for a much longer time. And now think of some of the characteristics of childhood. Children have this, evidently, this quality of being immediately in touch with their feelings, of being creative, of having this extraordinary facility to learn, much more than adults. They have great fantasy. They're able to laugh and they're able to cry and they're adaptable and they tend to be able to invent and to be curious and to wonder. Now all these qualities have been very handy for us to help us evolve. And if you put that together with the fact that we are children for a longer time. For how long a time can we stay in childhood? For 12 years, 14, 15? Well, in Italy we say many people stay children until they're 40 or 50, but that's another fact. But the main fact is that whereas, for instance, in other evolved mammals, childhood lasts for a very short time, 6 months, maybe a few weeks, maybe a year, depending on the species, but never more than that. We humans have this, what has been called neoteny, the capacity to have, to keep for a longer time our winning qualities of being a child, of being so inventive and adaptable and imaginative for a much longer time, and that was a key factor in our evolution. Why have we been able to do that? Because, again, somebody took care of us. So that care is deeply wired into our system, so to speak. So now I think it's easier, keeping these things in mind, it's easier to understand why kind people, people that are altruistic, people that take care of others, people that trust other people, and so on, are happier, healthier, and even do better business than the rest of us, than everybody else. So why would kinder people be healthier and happier? It's just like it's a premium. It's a gift. It's almost like nature is saying, okay, be like that, and you'll be able to be happier and to live longer. So you see, if you see it from this angle, kindness is not just some people trying to be courteous at other people, something that we are learning, have been learning recently, some tricks. No, kindness is part of our being, has been part of our being for a long, long time. In a way, this evening I'm not telling you anything new, because you already are kind. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But it's good to remind ourselves of this. Also, for another reason, that kindness is probably one of the quickest and best ways to grow. I've always been impressed by the words of the Dalai Lama. My religion is kindness, because it's probably one of the quickest way to get to whatever is sacred, to whatever is good and right, and it's really one of the quickest way for us to open and to establish good relationships with other people. In fact, we could see kindness as exactly this, as good, functioning relationships with others. In a way, we can think of ourselves as being in a web of relationships. Just imagine this web, and each one is one, how do you say, a knot on the web, or a point on the web. And if our relationship, if some of our relationships are polluted, then that will have consequences not only on ourselves, but on the whole web. So, the way I looked at kindness was to look at 18 different qualities of kindness. I won't mention them all, probably don't remember them anymore, but the qualities, I'll just mention a few. Qualities that are evidently connected with kindness, such as warmth and generosity, and some others that maybe are a little less evidently connected with kindness, like gratefulness and patience, and also memory, the capacity to remember people that are usually easily forgotten because they don't seem to count. But I will talk about a few of these qualities in a little while. First of all, though, I want to talk about some conditions for the work. And if those conditions are not met, we will have much more difficulties in working on kindness or on any other subject. Some of these conditions may be very obvious to you, but I think it may be worthwhile to mention them because we forget them. Even people that have been working on themselves for a long time. Now, the first condition or principle that I want to mention to you is that the small things count. Our life is made of little things, of small acts, of everyday occurrences. Each one, if we only look at the big picture, we are going to be too abstract. We have to look at all the different little happenings of our life. And I want to tell you a story about this. It's a story of how details count. In fact, I think in America, maybe in this country, you say God is in the details. And then recently I learned that in Germany they said the devil is in the details. But I think it probably amounts to the same thing, if you think about it. So now the story that I want to tell you is this. It's about a king that was on his balcony and of his palace, and he was with the chief advisor. And they were talking and having a good time, and they were eating some rice cakes with honey. And at some point, a little drop of honey fell on the railing. And the chief advisor said, "Oh, Your Majesty, a drop of honey fell on the railing." And the king said, "Oh, who cares? Somebody will clean it." But then it became, the weather became hotter, and the honey, the drop of honey melted and went down on the street right in front of the king's palace. And a fly went on the honey, was attracted by the honey. And the chief advisor says, "Oh, Your Majesty, look, there's a fly going on the honey." And the king says, "Who cares? Somebody will clean it. Never mind. These are small things." And then a lizard passed by, and he saw the fly, and so he ate the fly. And then a cat passed by, and he saw the lizard, and he pounced on the lizard. And then a dog passed by, and he saw the cat, and he started having a fight with the cat. And then the fight was so bad that the owner of the cat and the owner of the dog came in the street and tried to separate them. And the chief advisor said, look what's happening." And the king says, yes, but somebody will take care of that. But at that point, the owner of the dog started beating up the cat, and the owner of the cat started beating up the dog. And then the two owners started having a fight. And the king saw that, and he didn't like it at all. He said, "I don't like this. This has to stop. Not in front of my palace." And he had the guards sent in, and the guards tried to separate the two men who were fighting. But meanwhile, all their relatives and friends had come in, had joined the fight, so that that soon started becoming a civil war. And they burned houses, and they ended up burning the king's palace. And that was it for the king. So remember, next time you drop a drop of honey, clean it up immediately. But I like this story because it reminds us that it's important to pay attention. Maybe not all drops of honey will cause a kingdom to fall down, but that's what we have. That is the material of our everyday work. And we may not have the opportunity to do great acts of kindness, but we always have the opportunity of doing at least small acts of kindness. And I think that is probably what changes, or what may change us, ourselves, and other people. So that is the first principle, I think. Look at small things. The second is, you probably heard this many times, but I'm sorry I have to say it again, because we seem never to learn it. And that is, we have to take care, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. What does that mean? If you look at people in relationships, it's so easy to give other people, to attribute to other people the responsibility of what's going wrong, and to see our own darkness and our own problems in other people. In other words, to project, because it's so easy to say that it's other people's fault. And if we do that, it will never work. I want to tell you a Zen story about this. There was a Zen student that was meditating all day, And the end of the day, he went to his teacher and he said, I'm meditating all right, but there's a spider in the room that bothers me. I keep seeing it walking around, and he even makes a sound. So the teacher said, well, keep meditating. And so the next day he comes back and said, well, the spider has become bigger, and I'm getting frightened of it. So the teacher said, keep meditating. So he keeps meditating, and the next day he comes and he says, he is just overwhelmed. He said that the spider has become enormous, and I've been having terrible struggles with it all night because it's bigger than I am, and he's become a monster and he wants to eat me up. So the teacher said, okay, well, take this pencil and draw an X on the monster's belly. The next day, the student comes and she said, everything is fine now. The spider went away, I'm serene, I can meditate. The teacher said, show me your belly. He looked at the belly, he had a cross on his belly. Okay, so it's us. Okay, it's our problem is with us. If we want to work on it, we have to start with ourselves. And the third principle is that we are here to learn. In a way, we can see all the difficulties in our relationships as puzzles, as enigmas that we have to solve. If we just follow the hedonistic way of just running away from what makes us suffer without trying to understand, and just trying to enjoy our life as much as we can, that will not be complete, because it will lack understanding. It will just be reacting to people, reacting to trouble, just trying to run away. And I want to tell you a story also about this, about our own attitude to suffering. Because we often think that other people's troubles somehow are easier than our own. There was a woman that seemed to have a lot of troubles and problems in this story. But she was wondering, why is it easier for other people to solve their troubles and problems? Why do I have so many more problems than everybody else? But she had a friend who also had problems and troubles, and she seemed to be able to glide through them. So she thought, maybe I should invite this friend to my home. And she did, and she asked her, well, can you tell me how I can deal with my problems so efficiently and so well, just as you're doing? And she said, but they are your troubles. Only you can know how to do it. I don't know. I know how to deal with my troubles. All I can tell you is just get in touch with that part of you that is connected with everything that is. Ma. The woman was not very satisfied with that advice. So that night, she went to sleep, and she kept thinking, well, get in touch with that part of you that is connected with all that is. that's not the kind of advice that I wanted. I wanted something more practical. So at night, she had a dream. And she dreamt that she was in a big cave. And in that cave, there was a woman that came towards her. And she could see that in this cave, there were an enormous number of bundles. So she asked, in the dream, she asked this woman, what are all these bundles? Well, they are bundles of troubles. You have one too. Look at on your left shoulder, you have a bundle of troubles. And the woman looked, and she had a bundle of troubles. She didn't realize that she had had it all along. And the woman in the cave said, well, you can take it off, but on one condition, that you have to look for another bundle to substitute it with. Because these are all the bundles of problems of everybody, and you have so you can feel free to look at all the bundles. And the woman said, "Yes, there must be a bundle that's better than mine and lighter than mine." So she spends a long time looking through all the bundles, and one is too big, one is too short, one is too heavy, one doesn't just feel right, and finally she finds one that is just right. And she said, well, I think I'll take this one instead of mine. And the keeper of the cave says, okay, that's fine, but before taking it, just open it and look inside. And so she opens the bundle, and she discovered that is her own bundle. And the woman says, the keeper of the cave says, that's usually what happens, because our problems are our problems. They are just what we need and what we have to work through. But look at the other bundle that you have on your right shoulder. And the woman was not aware of having another bundle on the right shoulder. And this bundle was not a gray, ugly bundle. It was a bundle that was full of golden and silver threads. And she said, well, look inside. And she opened that bundle, and in that bundle were all her learnings, all her resources, all her talents, all the opportunities of her life. And so she was very glad to have that bundle. And when she realized that, the keeper of the cave was gone, the cave was gone, the dream was ended, and the sun was shining. So this is the third principle. Don't just run away from problems, but look into them, even though at first it may be a little bit intimidating. And if we keep these things in mind, then we can start looking and doing our work on kindness. And this evening, what I would like to do is to just mention a few of the qualities that I have looked into. As I said before, I came up with 18 different qualities. There are probably many more, but these qualities, there is a lot of research that has been done on them. That's very encouraging. One quality of kindness, for instance, is gratefulness. You may wonder, why would gratefulness be a quality of kindness? Well, the reason is simple. It's very hard to be kind and to be ungrateful at the same time. Gratefulness, in a way, is the capacity to acknowledge that we also depend on others, that others have given to us a lot. It's a way also of being vulnerable of not being so full of ego as to say, oh, I've done it all myself and I'm not grateful to anybody. But it's a way of being soft and open. And it's a wonderful state of being. In fact, I want to mention research that has been done on gratefulness, which has very, very important, great relevance for each one of us, because in a way it's a 5-minute exercise that we can all do. They took 2 groups of people. The experimenters are usually students, and one group of people had to sit down once a week and remember and write down 5 things that they were happy about in their life. Could be anything from just a good ice cream to having illumination while they meditated. Anything high or anything low, doesn't matter. Anything that they felt happy, even moderately happy about. Write 5 things once a week. It's just a matter of 5 minutes, right? The other group had to write 5 things that frustrated them once a week for 6 months. Now both groups, of course there was also a third group that was the control group, and that was also was not doing anything. At the end of 6 months and during the whole time, they measured these students, these subjects, and what they found out that the people who just spent 5 minutes a week remembering good things were healthier, were happier, had been doing more physical exercise, had the less need of psychotherapy, and had been more efficient in their work. And that's just for 5 minutes. So you may want to adopt this exercise, and if you try it, you will notice that even if you're in a bad mood, just thinking that about 5 things that you are grateful for in your life already changes your outlook. So gratefulness is one quality. Another quality that I looked into was patience. Do you think that kindness is slow, or do you think it's fast? What is your idea of kindness? What? Tolerance. So you think it's slow? What is the timing of kindness? Slow?
Well, it could be spontaneous.
Could be spontaneous? So quick. I think that we can see both elements of quickness, like being quick to respond, but also of slowness of giving time for people to be what they are. And I'm more interested in slowness for a reason. And the reason is that we're all getting faster. In fact, coming here to London, I was struck about how people walk fast in the street. The rhythm is incredible. Even though they measured, there's a 20-year research that has been done in which they measure how fast people walk on the street, how punctual the watches, the clocks are in banks, and how long it takes to get a stamp in the post office. That's why initially Italy was very low because of the post office, because it takes a long time. But now Italy is more or less the same as most Western countries. Japan and Switzerland are the first. Okay? Then first in the sense of being the fastest, not the best. Remember, we're not saying who is good and who is bad. It's just a matter of rhythm. And there is a backside to it, because being fast is connected also with some physical diseases, especially heart disease. You may know about the A types. Who is the A type? The A type is the kind of person who is very impatient. For instance, waiting for the lift, the A type will wonder, well, why doesn't the lift come? Why isn't it not here yet? Or if waiting for the, I tend to be like that, so I know about it. Waiting at the lights. What's the matter? Why is the light red? Maybe it must be broken. You know, I've been waiting for 100 years for the light to turn green. It's still red, because it's like a lot of time is compressed in just a few seconds. And the A type was discovered by a cardiologist, and the discovery was completely accidental. The cardiologist was renewing, how do you call it, the upholstery in his chairs in the waiting room. And the man who was doing his job said, well, why is it that in your study all the chairs are consumed here on this part, on the front part? And the cardiologist realized that people that were coming to him that had heart troubles were also the people that were sitting there and being very impatient for the time to go by so that they would have the visit and get done with it. And that's how he understood that kind of typology. So it may be wiser. It's nice to go fast. There's nothing wrong with it, unless we are slave to this rhythm. If we can change the rhythm, and I think kindness is very much part of it, of being able to be patient, to slow down, because there are people that are slower, maybe children sometimes, maybe older people, or maybe people of any age. Because if for a fast thinking person, sometimes it's agony. It feels like living in a world that is going in slow motion. But for people who are slow, it's also very difficult to live in a world that is increasingly faster. They always feel that they're too slow and they have to catch up. So patience, the capacity almost to, Assagioli, the founder of psychosynthesis, said, meditate on patience, because it helps you to have a feeling of what eternity, of what timelessness is. And it's always good and healthy to be in touch with timelessness. So patience is another quality of kindness. Let me tell you which should I choose now. Trust. Trust is another quality. And shall we trust other people or not trust them? What if they take advantage of us? What if they rob us? And what if they do all kinds of terrible things to us? I remember in the 70s in America there was this hippie restaurant in which you would have to pay yourself. You would have the meal, and then you would walk to the cashier, but there was no person there. You would just take out the money and put it in a box and walk out, and which meant that you were trusted. And that had a great feeling. It gave me a great feeling, and I think it made digestion easier also. However, I went a few years later. I went there because I wanted to see again this restaurant, and the restaurant wasn't there anymore. There was an insurance place, but no restaurant. I wonder what happened to them. So sometimes it is advisable and sometimes it isn't. But what they have found out is that the high trusters are actually much better at reading people and knowing if they can trust them or not. Whereas low trusters are just won't trust anybody. And if you think about it, our whole society is based on low trust. There is all kind of, I suppose we have to do that. It's necessary, but there's all kind of barriers like doors and locks and controls and security, and it's like we're all suspicious of everybody else. Well, I'm not saying this is bad. I suppose it must be done. But look at what happened to Yunus. Yunus, you may have read recently, was the one who got the Nobel Prize for Peace. He had this wonderful idea. He started a bank in which he loaned money to people who were not able to give him any guarantees except their word. You know how if you go to a bank, you ask for a loan, you have to give all guarantees because the bank wants to be completely sure they will have their money back. And Yunus found that he could lend money to these people, usually very, very poor people who wanted to start a business on their own, and he trusted them. And the percentage of people who gave him back the money was almost 100%, much more than for ordinary banks who do not trust by default. So trust is maybe one of the most biological of these qualities. Just look at a baby in his mother's arms and how they are able to surrender, the incredible surrender that you can see in a baby. And of course, another quality that is, I would call it very biological, is warmth. Again, as we saw in the beginning, we could not have survived were it not that we received care, that we received warmth. And there is a very interesting research that they did on, I think it was 58 different cultures. And they looked at how children were taken care of. How was the relationship of adults to children? And they found that the cultures in which children were treated with tenderness, with care, and with playfulness, were also the cultures who had less cruelty, less crime, less war, And they were the countries, the societies in which women were treated the best, and the societies also in which there was less envy, less social envy. Whereas the societies in which children were treated roughly, with severity, sometimes with cruelty, were the highest in war, drug dependence, crime, and social envy. So warmth not just with babies, but with the grown-ups, not just with grown-ups, but not just with others, but also with ourselves, because that is where kindness really starts. I firmly believe that we cannot be kind to others unless we are first kind to ourselves. Well, I'll finish in a moment, but I still want to say a word about perception, about how we perceive other people, and how much this is part of kindness. How much are we willing to see the goodness and the beauty in the people that surround us? And what change does that make in other people? It may actually be in our own best interest. And I'll tell you why. First, I want to tell you a story, an example of my own. And it's about the time when I went to America. I was doing group there. And as I entered the room, somebody that was going to introduce me told me, took me apart and said, well, there's that man that has a great sense of humor. You'll notice he says one joke after the other. So as I entered the room, I went to that man and I said, oh, I hear you have a great sense of humor. And he looked surprised, but he really liked that. And I could see him sort of smiling to himself. And then I started the group, and in fact he was very humorous. He said one joke after the other. So at the end of the group, I went to the person who had introduced me, and I said, well, you were really right. That man was really has a great sense of humor. And he said, but no, that was not him. That was that other guy. And he pointed to somebody who had been silent the whole time. So just the fact that I had seen that person in a different light had changed him. And of course, this is known through research. Employees who are seen as more efficient will become more efficient, and students who are seen as more intelligent will become more intelligent, even if they were not so in the first place. So, and this is what in my book I call the quality of respect. Respect comes from the Latin respicere, which means to see. So the way we look, and it all comes down always to something that changes inside us. Sometimes it's an about face. And I'll end with a Jewish story that I want to tell you, and then we can have some questions and answers. I hope that you don't agree with everything that I've said, and you will have plenty of objections or questions or different things that you want to say. But first, let me tell you this story. It's a story of a man that had enough of his family, because his family, his wife was bugging him all the time, and she was nagging him, and his children were disobeying him. Anything he would say, they would laugh at him, not do it, and his life was hell. So he went to the rabbi and said, "Rabbi, I've had enough of my family. I want to go to the heavenly Jerusalem. I want to go to heaven. Tell me how." And the rabbi said, "Well, look, it's very easy. All you have to do is to take such and such a street, and that keep walking and walking and walking until you find heaven." So the man sets about and he starts walking and walking and walking and walking, and he gets out of his village, he gets out of his country, and he keeps walking. At night, he's quite tired, so he finds an inn and goes to sleep there. But because he's a very methodical, very precise man, before going to sleep, he takes out his shoes and puts them so that they point in the direction in which he's supposed to go. So next morning, he'll just put on his shoes and keep walking towards heaven. But while he's asleep, a little mischievous devil comes in his room, takes his shoes, and set them in the opposite direction. So the next morning, the man wakes up and looks at the shoes, and it says, "Well, I thought I put them in the opposites, but never mind." He puts them on, and he starts walking in the direction that the shoes point to, which is, of course, the direction of going back. And he starts going back, and the more he walks, the more things look familiar. And he starts thinking, "But that's strange. Heaven looks very familiar." So he comes to his village and he says, "Oh, but heaven is just like my village." And then he comes to his house and he says, "Look, there's even a house that looks exactly like mine here in heaven. This is really coincidence." And walks in and finds his family. And he thinks, this is unbelievable. In heaven there is a clone of my family, and except that this is heaven, and they're all so beautiful and so kind and so nice. And from that time, from that day on, everything